Hey, friends, welcome back to the Big Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 596. Today, I'm introducing you to the incredible Dr. Leonaura Rhodes. Dr. Rhodes is on a mission to help people increase their happiness, health, and abundance. She has a diverse background that encompasses practicing medicine, delivering motivational speeches, coaching high-performing executives and professionals, facilitating corporate training programs, as well as neurotherapy, writing books, and creating courses. She's also a graduate of the Big Talk Academy, and I am super excited to welcome her to the podcast. I know that you're going to learn so much from her, and this is an amazing conversation. Let's do this. Lenora, I'm so excited to have you today as a featured guest on the Big Talk podcast.
I'm very
Welcome.
glad to be here.
So exciting that you're here, and you're an alum of the Big Talk Academy. And I want you to take our listeners back as far as you want to talk about how you ended up here in this particular moment with me
It's a
today.
very good question. And it's a long history, so I'll be brief. I'm showing my age there. So I began my career as a physician in the UK. 30 years ago, 31 years ago, actually. And it had always been my dream since I was about 12 years old to be a physician. And so in the UK, you go straight into medical school from high school. So you're super young when you make that decision. And I got into medical school and, got through 5 years and then became a junior doctor, a bit like residency in the US. And it was many amazing things about it, but as you've probably heard, it's very hard and long hours. My first job was like over 105 hours a week was kind of the average that I did. People often ask, how many hours a week? There are 160 hours in a week. So working an average of 105 was a lot. So those 3 years in the hospitals was tough. And learned so much. It was incredible. I had periods of pretty severe kind of stress and depression and anxiety during that time. My plan had always been that I was going to become a general practitioner, which is like internal medicine for adults and kids. And that's what happened. And 3 months into my training to become a general practitioner, I realized that I hated it with an absolute passion. It's one of those good examples of be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. It was awful. We were seeing like 40 to 60 patients a day, and there was no quality of care. It was just, it was like a cattle market. It was just, people kind of, you were literally kind of showing people out as you showed them in, type of thing. And so I realized pretty quickly I couldn't do that in the long run. And then I became a public health doctor, which I absolutely loved. I did that for 3 years, got my master's degree during that time. And then both my kids, I had my first son at 10 months old. He nearly died of chickenpox. And I was kind of forced to make a very difficult decision because I loved being a doctor. And I had to take a career break. And my intention was always to go back. And then my second son came along and he was even sicker than my first son. And so there was no, he used to stop breathing, which meant that I couldn't even leave him with my husband. It was like, it was me, or it was like, an ER nurse, and nobody else would do. And so it was, it was difficult, but it was the right thing to do. I have no regrets at all. And during my prolonged career break, I was training to be a counselor, and I didn't love receiving counseling. And a really cool coincidence happened. Coaching had just come to the UK, and there was this training, and I was like, this sounds like my cup of tea. And it was, for me, the difference between counseling and coaching was that coaching is about accepting who you are, where you are, but knowing that you deserve and that you want and that you can create a better life for yourself going forward. And that was what I needed, and that felt like a good modality for me to be delivering. So that was 18 years ago, and I became a coach just for parents of special needs kids. Initially, I did that for 2 years, and then I got the opportunity to go back to medicine as a developmental pediatrician. I did that job for 2 years. I loved it. So it's like autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, Down syndrome, all of that kind of thing. And then my husband announced we were moving to America, and I said yes. And then I found out I couldn't work here as a doctor without 4 years retraining. So when I moved here, I love working. So I very quickly retrained to do neurofeedback therapy, and I combined that with coaching. So I kind of immersed myself back into that world. And I've been a coach off and on for 18 years, and I love coaching. I think it's a wonderful way to help people. I've had short breaks from coaching. I worked as a medical writer for a couple of years. I just kind of needed a break from entrepreneurship, and when I returned to coaching, I went to work for Tony Robbins, and I worked for him for 18 months as a results trainer and a business results trainer and a coach. And I loved that. It was amazing, amazing training and being part of that community. And then 2020, in the midst of COVID, that second period of COVID, I got COVID pneumonia and nearly died. And I had a deathbed moment where I'd made videos for all my family to say goodbye. I was that scared. And I lay there and kind of contemplated, what will I do if I'm gifted more life? And that was the conversation I had with the universe. And I decided that I needed to go back to work for myself and help people in my way. Tony's way is great, but I wanted to help people in my unique way. And so I've been working for myself again for 3 years, and I love it. I mainly do executive coaching. Very randomly, I also coach parents of children with dyslexia, and I do a lot of corporate training. So I go into businesses and I help them with wellness and with leadership training as well.
What a beautiful story and
Mm.
journey. Thank you so much for sharing it with us so
Oh,
articulately,
thank you.
Leonora. It's such a pleasure to have you in our community, and you're clearly an extremely talented leader, and you showed that while you were inside of the Big Talk Academy. I would love for you to talk a little bit about what led you to the Big
Mm.
Talk Academy, when you found your voice prior to that, and what is your unique coaching
Yeah, that's a
style?
very good question. So, what led me to the Big Talk Academy was a desire to do a TED Talk. And I didn't feel equipped to do that. I'd been speaking for over 10 years on various stages, mostly free, but some paid stages as well. And I kind of felt that I was a good speaker, but I didn't feel like I was a great speaker. And I joined Big Talk Academy to become a great speaker. And I'll let you be the judge of whether that was the outcome. But I certainly grew a lot during during the training, and having to prepare, a talk and remember it and deliver it. It was funny, the corporate training that I did immediately after my big talk, everybody came up to me afterwards and said, "That was outstanding. What's changed?" And that was just the best the best thing to hear. Um,
That's the best thing for
yeah,
me to hear too.
yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
So I was really delighted to hear that, and hopefully, that whatever that was, whatever that change was, is remaining. And so you asked a question about my kind of unique style of coaching. With
Let's go
Yeah,
back a little
absolutely.
bit to your mastery over
Yes.
speaking
Yeah.
and how you went through the process and became a great
Yeah.
speaker. And you were a good speaker, but there is a difference between good
Yeah.
and great. And I think your confidence was just enhanced,
Sure.
and you had the techniques
Yeah.
and the tools so that you knew how to actually craft the art of the big
Yes.
talk
Yes,
script.
absolutely. And I think, I hadn't previously ever practiced so much. And it kind of really resonated with me, and it proved to me the importance of practice. When you've practiced a script over and over again, and actually how I did it was I recorded myself a lot, and I'd kind of record myself every couple of days and listen back to it and critique it, and change the script a little bit. And I think that was extremely helpful as well. And I'd kind of known that before, but I think it was experiential learning for me that I kind of needed to actually do it. And I'm definitely a big advocate of that for any speaking engagement. The practice is key. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we're going to put the links in the show notes to Leonaura's talk so that you can watch it. Um, so be sure to tune into the YouTube channel so that you can see her amazing big talk. Let's talk a little bit about what makes your coaching unique and when you found your voice as a
Mm-hmm.
coach in order to be unique.
So my unique style of coaching, because I have a pretty eclectic background. I have the traditional coaching. I did coach training in the UK, and then I did Robbins Madonna's training, and then I did Tony Robbins training. So my coach training combines all of that, but then on top of that, I'm a brain health certified coach and a mental fitness coach as well. And I'm a huge believer that we have incredible untapped potential in us as human beings. And I love the idea that we can learn by understanding how our body, brain, and mind work. We can tap into that, and we can find our peak self within us and unleash that more often. And it isn't about running around being a peak performer all the time. A lot of it's about living a content life and being happy, and being grateful, and that type of thing. So that's kind of my weird, unique combination. And I have to say, when I'm coaching, I really get in the zone, and sometimes it's like the universe is speaking through me. I'll say something, and I'm like, where did that come from? It's like, but it was good. So
I have
yeah,
goosebumps. That's amazing. Well, that's you knowing that you're in the right
yeah,
place and that you're living in your
yes,
purpose.
absolutely. So
Have you taken a TED stage yet? Is that something still that you're
yeah,
working on?
I'm not sure actually. I went to watch TEDx URI a couple of weeks ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I spoke to somebody recently who was she did a TED talk, and she was not raving about it. And so I'm kind of on the fence. In some ways, actually for ego reasons, I'd love to do it, but I'm wondering if there's actually better ways to reach a larger audience. And I must tell you, Tricia, I don't think I've told you this, but about 3 months after my big talk, I got an email from the BBC, which as a Brit is the pinnacle of media in the UK. It's what I grew up with. And this was from this producer of a BBC Radio 4 show. And she said, we'd like you to be a brain health expert. We saw your big talk. And I thought it was a joke initially, but I immediately wrote back to her, and I was like, hell yeah, I would love to be your brain health expert. And so I was on a show called Sideways, and which was and if you remember, my big talk was about embracing mediocrity, why dabbling is good for your brain. And it was a show about dabbling and about not having to be perfect, and doing things just for the sake of doing something new and fun and interesting. And so that was such a thrill. It was like and I think there are many ways to meet people, to reach people these days. So yeah,
That is the best thing I've heard all day, Lenora, that the BBC saw your big talk and
yeah,
called you. I love that so much, and I'm so excited for you, and I do think there's a lot of ways that you can reach the people that you need
yes,
to reach, and it's by putting yourself out there,
yeah,
showing up. You're an influential voice, you're coaching people, the ripple effect that you're having by supporting them in unleashing their untapped
yeah,
potential, and you all can watch Leonaura's talk on the Big Talk YouTube channel. But I think that it's important also just to acknowledge that not all TED producers are the same. There's really good ones and there's ones that are not really good. So you have to be able to vet those if you want to have a great experience. So I wouldn't rule
Yeah,
it out, but I would also be sure to share your BBC interview on all the platforms so that you continue to have the kind of reach that you
that's
desire.
a really good idea. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. What do you have going on now?
So I've just launched another baby. I wrote a book 10 years ago, and for a while I called it my baby. I've just launched an app, which is really cool. I just really fancied having like an app all to myself. And so it's a coaching app. It has a free course in it, a free 5-day masterclass in it, and then you can go on to take a paid version for those people who want to go to mastery level. And so that's kind of my current focus, and I'm super excited. I launched it about 2 weeks ago, and it's going well. And yeah, so that's
What's this new baby
it's
called?
called Peak Life Design.
Peak Life Design. We'll put a link in the show notes so everybody can download this
Thank you.
amazing app. That is
Yeah.
so exciting. What is the ultimate outcome for people who
Yeah.
download the app?
So my audience is ambitious, um, high performing individuals. I work mainly with kind of C-suite individuals and professionals. So I've worked with over 100 doctors over the years, coaching physicians, and I seem to attract lawyers and data analysts and people like that as well. So the idea of the app is to take people who are already successful but feeling unfulfilled and unhappy and wondering, is this it? And to show them how to design a life that they will love, a life where they will wake up every morning excited about the day ahead, and a life with no regrets. So that's the purpose of the app, and it has a 28-day initial program where you learn about life, my kind of way of doing life design, and then you go into the areas of life that you want to improve. So say your mental health isn't great. There are modules about mental health. Say you find your energy is not great. There's going to be a module about that, one about relationships, career, etc. So the idea is that there will be modules for each of the domains or areas of your life. Does that make sense?
Uh, Amazing. It makes perfect sense. This is going to be so helpful for
Yeah,
people who are really successful, who want to dial it in with your support.
yeah.
Amazing. You are such an influential voice and you're having such a profound positive impact in the world. I so
Oh,
appreciate
thank
you.
you. Thank you. I love what I do. And it's funny, I'm in a buddy program where every morning we have to share gratitude, and every day I'm just like, I'm such a blessed individual to get to do work that I love and feels meaningful to me is a true blessing. I don't take it for granted any day.
I am right
Yeah.
there with you,
Yeah.
Lenora. I hear you 1000%. Are you ready for some fast
Yes.
talk?
Hit me up.
All right. What's your favorite book? What's your
My
favorite
favorite
book?
book is The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. It saved my life about 22 years ago. It was just
Yeah,
landed on
it's
my, I actually found it in a thrift store on a day when I was extremely depressed. And it like
hmm.
leapt out off the shelf at me, and it changed my life. Yeah,
Yep, I've got it on my shelf right over
brilliant.
here. Who's your favorite speaker and why?
My favorite speaker, I'm torn a little bit between Tony Robbins, who I do think is an outstanding speaker. He has the most incredible ability to influence people, and I also think he's a brilliant coach. He's so intuitive and so quick to be able to get to the core of the problem. I also
Mm.
really like Mel Robbins. I didn't used to like her,
Hmm.
and I'm liking her more and more. So she's my favorite kind of female speaker right now. And I listen to podcasts all the time, so there are many. Yeah, but those two.
Well, we're going to get to what your favorite is if you can land on
Mm.
one podcast. But before we do, how do you memorize?
So I write and rewrite, and then I record myself and I listen back. And then, having listened back several times on walks, I practice it. So I try and get as far as I can, while I'm walking. And if I get lost, I start from the beginning again. Yeah.
Well done. I appreciate you putting this technique to
Yes.
use. What do you do the day before you speak? What are your rituals?
So the day before is prep time, and I'm a big preparer. So I'll read the the instructions and make sure that I'm ready. Occasionally I miss doing that, and it always backfires. I had an event. It was actually an event I went to recently, and I left it till the last minute, and I had some problems that I couldn't fix, and it was just so stressful. So preparation the day before, and actually on the before the interview or the presentation, I'll usually do vocal warm ups. And I learned them from Roger Love. I did a Roger Love course several years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'll do some vocal warm ups with that. And I also always try to get some exercise as well. I think for me, getting daily exercise is just so important for my energy. I'm a pretty high energy person anyway, but I think it reduces my stress and puts me in the right high energy rather than kind of slightly wired high energy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. You're giving the audience the perfect cocktail of what needs to be done because this is like being an
I
athlete. When
agree.
you're speaking, you have to really, really take it seriously, like
Yeah,
every detail, if you want to be a great speaker, which you
absolutely.
are.
And I also think what you eat is important as well. I always avoid dairy beforehand because I think it creates mucus at the back of your throat. And
Hmm.
I will always leave it at least 2 hours. Yeah, I'll eat at least 2 hours before I speak, and I do a lot of speeches where there's a meal included, but I'll never partake until it's over. So I think the diet, your diet is hugely important anyway, and I think I don't eat sugar anymore, but I think, advice for people in general, you want to avoid anything that's going to cause an increase in sugar and then a sudden dip in sugar, which might coincide with you giving your talk. Yeah,
Right. That would be a disaster. That's such great
yeah.
advice, Leonora. What is the podcast you're obsessed with right now?
Um, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it because he's been outed a little bit. It's Huberman Lab podcast. Um,
Outed
he
for.
his personal relationships. He hit the news with his personal relationships. I love Huberman. He has some of the best guests. It's all neuroscience based, so it's like really suits the nerdy side of me. I'm listening to a 4 episode. It's going to be like 12 hours all together on sleep at the moment, and it goes so deep, and I just love it. It just it satisfies my inner nerd.
Amazing. I have not
Yeah.
heard of him or his podcast or his
Good.
personal life. So, for those of you who want to dig into that, we'll put it in the show notes, but I don't have anything to say on him at all.
Okay, keep it that way.
It has, yes, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Lenora. Where can our listeners get in touch with you? And I think you have something special
Yes,
for them.
yeah. So my website, my main website is Dr. Leonaura Rhodes, and if you go to that, then you will find a link to my free masterclass. And I really want people to, to try the masterclass. It has incredible value in it. I hate it when people kind of, tease you but don't really give you anything. And so I tried to create something that would be very valuable as a standalone. So I would love people to go and take the masterclass.
Amazing, everybody. Those will be in the show notes so that you can take Lenora up on that. It is such a pleasure to be with you. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel, be sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell so you get access to the next recordings. And for those of you who are listening, we so appreciate you spending time with us. We know how precious your time is, and we hope that everything that was shared today serves you. And if it did, feel free to share this podcast with your friends. And remember, everybody, your voice matters. Big love.